Good morning, children. Today we are going to have first chapter from your Flamingo book, that is the last lesson, written by Alphonse Daudet. Alphonse Daudet was a French novelist and short story writer. The last lesson is set in the days of Franco-Prussian War of 1870-71. Now see, in every line there is one mark of question, MCQ question. So you should be very attentive in reading your NCERT books, okay? In which France was defeated by Prussia, led by Bismarck. Now this is also MCQ, that who led that army, and Prussian army, under whose custody they all were, under whose leadership they all were, you can say. So Bismarck is the answer here. Prussia then considered of what now are the nations of Germany, Poland and parts of Austria. In this story, the French districts of Alsace and Lorraine have passed into Prussian hands. Read the story to find out what effect this had on life at school. So what happened? That in Franco-Prussian War, Prussians defeated French, and now they wanted to impose their language in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine districts of France. That means their language was French, but now Germans imposed German language instead of French. Okay, and in this chapter you will see that defeat of France had a very serious impact in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. So this chapter deals with the theme of linguistic chauvinism, that is love for one's own language, and sub-theme of procrastination, that is those people always think that there is a plenty of time to do the work. So what happened at this point? That now their French language will be taken away from them, and now they realized that till this date they had not given importance to the French language. Now it will be taken away, and now they realized that how beautiful, logical, clearest and how important their language is for them. So you will read this in the chapter. Now I am going to start the chapter. I started for school very late that morning. So I, here is Franz, little boy, Franz, and was in a great dread of scolding. Dread of scolding means fear of scolding by teacher. Why? Because he had not learned the rules of participles, especially because M. Hamel, teacher there of French language, who had served the institution for 40 years. Now it's the last day of M. Hamel in the school, because from next year onward German will be imposed in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine instead of French. So that's why title is beta last lesson of M. Hamel of French language. I hope you have understood till now. This chapter deals with the last lesson of M. Hamel, French teacher, because from next year onwards German will be taught in the schools. So now in the last lesson he wanted to say or speak everything in a one go to the students, and wanted to convey that how French language is most clearest, beautiful and logical language, and if you have a hold over your language, it is the key to the prison. That means if you are enslaved by the others, but if you have hold over your language, it is a key to your prison. Especially because M. Hamel had said that he would question us on participles, and I did not know the first word about them. So Franz did not know about participles. That's why he was having fear. For a moment I thought of running away and spending the day out of doors. So Franz was more interested in the outside atmosphere of the school than inside. It was so warm, so bright. The birds were chirping at the edge of the woods, and in the open field back of the sawmill, the Prussian soldiers were drilling. These all things are more tempting to Franz. It was all much more tempting than the rules of participles. But I had the strength to resist and hurried off to the school. When I passed the town hall, there was a crowd in front of the bulletin board. Very important 2 marks of question. Why there was a crowd on bulletin board? Because answer is written here only. For the last 2 years, all R means French people, bad news had come from there. The lost battles, the draft, orders of commanding officer, and I thought to myself without stopping, what can be the matter now? That means lot of crowd and they all were reading this news. Then, as I hurried by as fast as I could go, the blacksmith watcher who was there with his apprentice, supporting boy, other people, reading the bulletin called after me. Don't go so fast, bub. Bub means boy. You will get to your school in plenty of time. So, this is very important. 6 marks of theme. That is theme of procrastination. That is postponing the things for the next day. That's why word written over here is plenty of time. French people, they had an habit to postpone the things for the next day. I thought he was making fun of me and reached M. Himmel's little garden all out of breath. Now, very important paragraph, very important question of 3 marks. What were the changes noticed by France on that day? Please listen carefully. Usually, when school began, there was a great bustle and hustle which could be heard out in the street. The opening and closing of desks, lessons repeated in unison, that means all the students were learning their lesson for the test very loud with our hands over our ears to understand better, and the teacher's great ruler rapping on the table. But now, so see, this is the usual atmosphere of the school. But word is written here. Now it was all so still. So that's why school is quite different today. I had counted on the commotion, commotion means confusion, to get to my desk without being seen. But of course, that day everything had to be as quiet as Sunday morning. Through the window, I saw my classmates already in their places, and M. Hamel walking up and down with this terrible iron ruler under his arm. I had to open the door and go in front of everyone, before everybody. So you can imagine, very important thing, how blushed and how frightened I was. Franz was feeling blushed because he was entering into the class in front of everyone, and he was frightened because he had not learned the participles and he had a fear that teacher will now scold him. So that's why 2 words written over here, blushed and frightened. But nothing happened. Contrary to his thoughts, nothing happened. Why? M. Hamel saw me and said very kindly, "Go to your place quickly, little Franz. We were beginning without you." Because on that day, M. Hamel was quite changed. It was his last lesson and he forgot all about his cranky nature. And in a very kind way or polite way, M. Hamel asked Franz to go to the seat. I jumped over the bench and sat down at my desk. Here is Franz. Not till then, when I had got a little over my fright, come into the senses, I see that our teacher. Now see beta, this is another question, very important, 2 marks as well as in 3 marks. Why M. Hamel was dressed differently, or how M. Hamel was dressed differently on that day. You have to write like this only. No need to write coat, pant or tie, whatever. But whatever words are written in NCERT, you have to stick to that. Beautiful green coat, his frilled shirt and little black silk cap, all embroidered. So these adjectives you have to write. No need to write coat, pant, etc. But just whatever written over here. Okay, and little black silk cap, all embroidered. This is very important, 1, 2 marks of question, that he never wore except on inspection and prize days. Besides, the whole school seemed so strange and solemn, calm, quiet. But the thing, this is another again 2 marks of question, what was the thing that surprised Franz more? And that thing was all the back benches were occupied, see, with the village elders, see. But the thing that surprised me most was to see on the back benches that were always empty, the village people sitting quietly like ourselves. Old Hauser with 3-cornered hat, former mayor, former postmaster, several others besides. Everybody looked sad. Why? Because it was M. Hamill's last lesson. He was a teacher of French language, and Hauser had brought an old primer. Primer is a book which is yellow from the edges, thumbed from the edges, thumbed at the edges, and he held it open on his knees with his great spectacles lying across the pages. That means that at that point he was very keen in reading the book.